there. Welcome to the Aglow Generations Podcast. I'm Janae Lover, and I am the Aglow Generations Director here at Aglow International. And I welcome you back, or I welcome you for your first time. Now, today I am preparing for this podcast, which I'll just be vulnerable for a second and say that, as I believe I've expressed before, this podcast is a new project for Aglow, and it's such a blessing to be able to have this tool that the Lord has provided to us to be able to communicate with all of you, considering that we're a global ministry. So we're not just in the United States, but we're in over 170 nations around the world. And so the awesome thing that God has provided is this way for me to talk with you guys, to share what's going on in Generations or what the Lord has put on my heart for Generations. Sometimes I'll be bringing, information like I have with statistics and different things about the younger generations like Gen Z, millennials, etc. Sometimes, the Lord will give me a word from His word that He wants me to share. And other times I'll just be doing some updates about what's going on. So today it's a little bit of both. I wanted to do just a few little minor updates for you guys so you're kind of in the loop with what's going on here at headquarters. So, since I pretty much have gotten into this role towards the end of last year, early this year, I've really been trying to make an effort at redoing a lot of stuff that was online and things that have just been kind of the same for a while, or maybe the vision has changed, or, just different things that had changed or that I just feel should change. So if you go onto our website, which I did see a lot of the responses from the survey that I put out about Generations, most of you said either, how do I find the Aglow Generations website, or I've never heard of it. So we do have a website. There's two ways you can find it. One is to go to aglow.org. That's Aglow's website for our whole ministry. And in that website, it's broken up, I believe, in the ministries tab. You can go down and click on Generations, and then there's a link to take you to the Generations website. Or, way easier, you can go to aglowgenerations.org, and there it is. So it's still a little bit under construction. There used to be a lot of resources on there, forms and questionnaires, manuals, different things like that for people who have started Aglow Generations groups or wanting to start groups. And so I've pulled some of that off because a lot of it is currently irrelevant. Some of it definitely still was, but I wanted to clean it up. And so I've been working on creating just one manual that I can translate into multiple languages so that it's relevant for everyone in Aglow Generations across the world, but also so that all of the information that you would need to either start a group, maybe you're in a group and the leader has stepped down and you want to step into that role. Maybe you don't want to start an Aglow Generations group with Generations aged people, teens to 40s, or anywhere in between that. It doesn't have to be teens all the way through 40s. It could be just teens. It could be middle schoolers. It could be, 20s. It could be single moms. It could be young adults, college campus. It's a really broad range of groups that we can have and do have. And so the manual will be just a one-stop shop, basically, of the things that you need to know, the things that you may want to know. Maybe you don't lead a group or want to lead a group, but you're in a group where you're just or you're in an Aglow Lighthouse, or you're on an area team and you want to know more about Generations because you're trying to get Generations people to become a part of Aglow in your community. And so hopefully the goal is to have all of that in that manual. If you have any questions about anything that we're doing or any feedback, I would love that too. You can definitely email me. My email address is janaelovern@aglow.org. And on the YouTube, I believe the cover for this podcast says with your host, Janae Lovern. So that's how you spell my name, because I know it's not one that's easy to spell. But you can definitely email me there. And so that's kind of our updates. I know that most of you are on our social media pages. I do share a lot of the Aglow Generations social posts with the Aglow main page so that everybody can see it. But if you haven't followed or liked the Aglow Generations Facebook page, if you're on Instagram, we have an Instagram page. I'm going to be starting Threads and Twitter, or not Twitter, but X, formerly Twitter. So definitely get involved in those as well. And, we'll all just continue on this journey together. All right. Well, that was kind of some housekeeping, I suppose. I think that's what they say, housekeeping. I don't really know. But when I was preparing for today's podcast, I, of course, went to the Lord and asked him what it was that he wanted me to say on the podcast this week. And I can tell you for sure that if it were just up to me, I don't think I would even be able to record these, because it really is the Lord that's using this platform for us. And so I wait and listen for him to give me something that he wants me to talk about or to share. And so that's what I did this week. So usually the goal is to record these on Tuesdays, and sometimes it isn't Tuesday or Wednesday when I record it, because I really wait for the Lord's leading in that. So today, as I mentioned before, I often will journal, and definitely the last 2 weeks I've talked about this journal that I've had and have continued to use. And so today, I was just trying to write in it, and as I was flipping through, these words stood out. And I don't know if this was from a video that Dutch Sheets did, or if I just wrote it in response. So I'm definitely not taking credit if Dutch Sheets said this. But it could be that was just something the Lord said to me after I listened to this. So it was from a message that he gave in September of last year, September 25th. And I believe it was at his brother Tim Sheets' church. So I apologize that I don't have a better way to cite my source, but it might not have been Dutch that said it. So anyway, in big letters, I wrote, "Now Steward the Rain." And I have no context because it doesn't really connect with what I had written anywhere else. But in big letters on a blank page, I wrote, "Now Steward the Rain." And, immediately, of course, the image of harvest came to mind. And we all know that for crops to grow and for a harvest to do well, rain is required because the crops need to be hydrated so that they can grow. And so I really felt that was for us today. And I would just ask, as being a part of Aglow Generations and Aglow, when the Lord gives one of us something, or tells us something, it's often not just for us, it's for everyone. So if I would just ask that you would pray into that and ask the Lord to reveal to you what he might be saying to you or your community or your area of Aglow, on what that means. But as I just kind of stared, that's really what I did. I just stared at it. I don't know if you do that, but sometimes when the Lord stops you, you just stop and just, especially when it's written, you just stare and just, really start talking to the Lord about what he may be trying to say. And I just really felt like when he said, now steward the rain, he's really continuing to confirm in Aglow that, we are to be cultivating and raising up these younger generations. And so in that light, I suppose, I don't have any of this written down. So I'm really just speaking in the real and in the now this week. But for us, that are maybe not Gen Z, I'm a millennial, of course, but those who are older, Gen X, baby boomers, etc. If we think about the younger generations as our harvest, as, us wanting to reach these younger people, especially considering the environment that I guess you could say these crops are growing in. It's not a very conducive environment most of the time. There's a lot of elements that can disrupt their growing process in the Lord and in their faith. And so the Lord really is calling us as people who have been rooted in our faith. We're not just little saplings that have a little root that needs to be, ground into the soil and spread its roots and really get a strong hold. We are rooted. And so it's up to us to really help these younger ones along. And I think that's what the Lord's calling us to do by that. So, again, maybe the Lord is using that as something else for you. And he's really speaking to you in a different way. I'd love to hear from you if he is. I would love for you to, email me or even go on Facebook, Aglow Generations. You can message in there and I'll get those messages. But let's all just sort of pray into that and ask the Lord how, if he's calling us to steward the younger generations, what is it individually and as a whole that he's calling us to do? So for me, when I was, just going about my regular life, and I do have some of the Gen Zs in my life. And one of the things that I think we can all relate to, no matter what generation we're in, is that, we all have desires in our heart. And sometimes those desires don't match up with what God is asking of us. And that can be really, really hard to walk through. And, sometimes and I'm going to speak for myself personally, because that's the only person that I know that in-depthly. But, sometimes it can be something that we've had in our heart as a desire and longed for and expressed to the Lord. And we know that he's listening and we know that he understands where we're coming from. And we hope that, he will hear our cries and our longings, and that what we desire is a part of his plan for us. And often it is, but sometimes it's not. And so in that time, it can be hard. And so there's this little book, which I have talked about before, His Gentle Voice. It's by Julie Wayner. So in this book, the main character is actually the author of this book. And it's her story of coming to faith, living out her faith, the struggles that she has when she has to sacrifice things that the Lord has asked her to basically set aside, and what it means to really sacrifice and still pursue what God has called us to, or her calling. So that's a really complicated way of trying to summarize this book, but it's really good. And I wish I could send you all a copy, but I can't. So for now, I will read just a little bit from it. So in this part of the story, she's had a really big disappointment, and the desire of her heart is basically it's not happening. And so she says, Lord, I started again. I don't know what you are doing. I only know that you are doing something. It hurts me terribly to know that," and then it talks about what she's going through. "I had been waiting for the last 4 years, and now it looked like I had to wait again. My waiting had been a constant learning experience and was being climaxed by the severest test of all. Did I have the strength to rest quietly in the fact that God knew what he was doing, even though I didn't? This is what God wanted me to learn. I reached for my diary and wrote, 'I am learning that precious things in life often come with tears and pain. But when I wait for his timing, the waiting has not been in vain.'" And then she says, "Thank you, Lord," I sobbed, "for the hardest trial I have ever had. Please make me faithful in your sight." I was crying because I so desperately wanted to be true to my Lord as I gave him the desires of my heart once again. I opened the Bible for comfort and encouragement and read Isaiah 48:10. "I have chosen thee in the furnace of affliction." "Oh God," I said, "you are working. How grateful I am." And, in Isaiah 48:10, as she said there, "See, I have refined you, though not as silver. I have tested you in the furnace of affliction. For my own sake I do this. How can I let myself be defamed? I will not yield my glory to another." And I think that kind of ties in a lot of what the Lord was speaking to me today. And I'm speaking now for, the younger generations, but also really everybody. But when we have these things that we really, really are passionate about, or really, really feel like, "Lord, this is really hurting and I don't know why I'm going through it. I know that you have a plan, but this hurts. And thank you for reminding me that, in this hurt, you are bringing me through basically the furnace, and you're refining me." And so for those of us who grew up in the church or have been a Christian for a long time, we can really understand that. And so when we come to these trials in our life, and we can say, "Lord, I know this hurts really bad, and I don't know why I'm walking through it, but I know you have a plan. And so just, please cover me in your peace so that I can walk through this, knowing that whatever happens, ultimately it's your will for my life, and help me to have peace in that circumstance." And also for me, in something that I'm walking through, a lot of what I had to do was say, what I just said, but also, "Lord, if this is not your plan for me, then please bring me peace and comfort in walking out of that, because it has been a desire. But if it's not for me, then I don't want it. If your plan for me is not to have that in my life, then I don't want it, because I want what you have for me. But please help me to release that to you, so that I can fully walk in your peace." And so I think Isaiah really is, in just a few words, really defining that. When we walk through that and we're able to get to that point that we say that, "I release this to you, Lord," we are being refined in that. And in the same way, a big jump, but hopefully you track with me, in the same way, our younger generations, some have been in church their whole life and have been Christians their whole life, and that is awesome. And so spiritually, they're really as mature, or maybe more mature than people who are older than them. So I'm not really speaking into them. For them, I would say, the response is the same as I just said. But I am speaking into the younger ones who might be watching or listening, or who aren't, and maybe their parent, grandparent, or somebody that's in their life is listening and watching. So for them, I would say that part of us helping them in those circumstances, because when they're walking out those hard things, they probably do come to those who they trust. So it's probably you with these hard things. And I know as a parent, one of the hardest things to say is, well, maybe that's not God's will for you. And Teenagers don't really like to hear that. I don't like to hear that. I didn't like to hear it as a teenager. But I think that's part of the stewarding, is us helping them in those situations. Because I think if we can be walking through life and in the hardest of the hard and the moments that hurt the most, whatever they might be, whether it's a desire, it's something awful that happened, whatever it might be, if we can learn to trust the Lord in what he's doing, know that he has a plan for us, know that his plan for us is good. He's not sitting in heaven thinking, oh, well, I'm going to have these great lives for all these people, but except for them, they'll just be, a side character. My daughter says this all the time, that, there's this whole thing about being a main character. And hopefully I haven't just completely given away my my distance in knowing what the younger ones are always talking about. But I do get this one, because we all want to be the main character in our story. And so, anyway, in stewarding them and walking with them through these things, we not only can be examples to them, to teach them, to build relationship and walking through things with them. They don't even have to be related to us to walk through some of these things. A lot of times the younger generation, they just want somebody to listen to them. They want somebody that they feel safe enough to share with what's going on in their life. And they need someone that they can share with that also is rooted in faith, that can walk with them, steward them, and ultimately see them raised up as, part of that great harvest. So I know I made a huge giant circle around that. So hopefully everyone was tracking with me. But, let's just be praying for the younger generations and for all generations, that we can all come together and grow in faith together and see what the Lord is doing in this new day in Aglow and in this new day in the world. So I hope you have a great week, and I would love to hear back from you guys. And so anyway, I will see you, or you'll hear me next week, and I just wish you will have a wonderful week, and I pray that the Lord would bless you and pour his favor out on you in the week ahead. So I will see you guys soon. All right. Bye.